Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Jeffrey, and I'm here to tell you the story of my life. My wife, Brenda, and I met in college. She was my first real love, the kind that made everything else seem small in comparison. While others were busy figuring out their lives, we thought we had it all figured out. Instead of waiting, we got married young, full of optimism. And a year later, we had our daughter, Christine. Those early years were something special. We weren't rich, but we had enough. Life was simple. Work, home, raising Christine, and dreaming about the future. I won't lie and say it was always perfect, but it was good. There were struggles, sure. Bills to pay, late-night arguments, moments when we were both exhausted and frustrated. But back then, even when we fought, we always found our way back to each other. There was an unspoken belief that we were solid, that no matter what, we were in this together. And that's where I made my first mistake. I assumed that just because we had years together, it meant we were safe. That familiarity was enough to keep us strong. I never thought I'd have to worry about losing the woman I had built my entire life around. Because when you've spent nearly 2 decades with someone, it's easy to think they'll always be there. But time has a way of making people drift. And when you don't see the distance growing, it blindsides you when it finally hits. In the last 2 years, something changed. Conversations that used to flow naturally started feeling like an obligation. Every little thing turned into a problem. Things we used to laugh about suddenly mattered in a way they never had before. At first, I told myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage has them. But rough patches don't usually stretch on for years. We tried to fix it. I didn't want to believe that our years of marriage could unravel just like that. We went on vacations, hoping a change of scenery would help. And for a little while, it did. Sitting on a beach, sipping cocktails, pretending everything was fine. It was easy to believe we were okay. But vacations end. And every time we came home, the same problems were waiting for us, like we had just pressed pause instead of dealing with them. So, we tried therapy. That felt like a real step in the right direction. At least, at first. Sitting in a room with a professional, talking through our issues, it made me hopeful. I thought this was what we needed, a way to work through the mess we had become. Then, one day during the session, Brenda casually mentioned that she had reconnected with an old friend. Back then, I believed her. I didn't see any reason to care. We're adults, right? People stay in touch with old friends all the time. I didn't know then that this old friend would become the wedge that finally drove us apart. Brenda started keeping her phone closer, turning the screen away when I walked by. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and see the faint glow of her screen, her fingers moving across the keyboard. "Who are you texting?" I asked one night, my voice thick with sleep. She barely looked up. "Mark. He's going through a rough time." That was her go-to excuse. I wanted to believe it. Because the alternative, the thought that my wife of 19 years was emotionally invested in another man, was too much to process. Then came the defensiveness. If I so much as questioned the frequency of their conversations, I was the bad guy. "It's not like that," she'd snap, rolling her eyes like I was some insecure teenager. "You're being paranoid and jealous." I wasn't jealous. I was watching my wife slowly slip away, pouring parts of herself into someone else while treating me like a nuisance. Conversations between us became shorter. Looking back, I should have confronted it head on. But when you've built a life with someone, you don't want to believe they're capable of betraying you. And before you know it, the marriage you thought was unshakable is already crumbling, and you're the only one trying to hold it together. Mark was Brenda's high school boyfriend. They were together for a few years, back when love was just about passing notes in class and sneaking in phone calls after curfew. But life happened. She went off to college, and he took a different path. From what little she told me, they broke up simply because they grew apart. It wasn't some tragic love story, just 2 teenagers going their separate ways. And that was supposed to be the end of it. Except, decades later, out of nowhere, Mark found his way back into our lives. It started with a message. He had just gone through a divorce and apparently needed Brenda's advice. At first, it seemed harmless. Just catching up. Just old friends talking. That's what she told me. But as the days went by, Mark's presence in our marriage started to grow. Quietly, like a leak in the ceiling you don't notice until the damage is too big to ignore. The moment I knew without a doubt that this wasn't just an innocent reconnection was one night when Brenda was on her phone again. At this point, it had become a routine. I commented, something lighthearted, like, must be an exciting conversation. She snapped. Full-on defensive, like I had just accused her of a crime. That night, I had enough. I looked Brenda in the eyes and told her straight up, cut him off. No more pretending I didn't know. I expected resistance or an argument, but what I got instead sent a chill through me. She laughed. Then with a steady voice, she said, I think Mark is my true soulmate. I was supposed to be with him. I don't know how long I sat there. Maybe a minute. Maybe an hour. My brain refused to process it. How do you respond when the woman you sacrificed for, the woman you shared a home with, tells you she was never really yours? That your entire life together was nothing more than a mistake? A wrong turn? I had always assumed that no matter how bad things got, we were in this together. But now I realized that in her heart, she had already left. I had just been too blind to see it. And here is the part that truly broke me. Christine had been in the next room, close enough to hear everything. She walked into the room. I turned to her, hoping for some kind of support. For her to look at her mother in disbelief, to ask how she could say something so cruel. But instead, she looked at me with this calm, almost pitying expression, and said, Mom deserves to be with the person she truly loves. You wouldn't want her to be unhappy, right? My own daughter, the one I had raised, protected, and provided for, was looking at me like I was the problem. Something inside me snapped. The pain was too much, the betrayal too deep. If my wife saw me as a mistake and my daughter thought I was an inconvenience, then what was there left to fight for? The day I walked into the courtroom for the final hearing of our divorce, I felt nothing. People talk about fighting for their marriage and for their family. But what's the point of fighting when the war is already lost? Brenda wanted Mark. Christine saw me as an afterthought. So, instead of dragging myself through a pointless battle, I did the only thing that made sense. I let go. I filed for divorce myself. I wasn't going to wait for Brenda to do it on her terms. When it came time to divide everything, I made it simple. She didn't want monthly alimony payments? Fine. Take the lump sum. Take whatever assets were fair. There was no need to haggle, no need to argue over furniture or bank accounts. Christine was already an adult, which meant there would be no child support. This wasn't about winning or losing. This was about being done. When the judge asked if I had anything to say, I could have given some long-winded speech about betrayal, about how 19 years of marriage had been rewritten into some mistake. But I wasn't going to waste my breath explaining my pain to people who had already made up their minds. So, I kept it short. I looked straight ahead and said, if my wife wants to be with him, and my daughter believes I was never enough, then I won't stand in their way. That was it. No begging. No dramatics. Just the truth. On paper, it might have looked like I was abandoning them, like I was walking away from my responsibilities as a husband and a father. But in reality, I was setting myself free. At first, Christine doesn't take it seriously. She thinks I'm just angry, and that I need time to calm down. Probably in her mind, I'm just throwing a temporary tantrum, punishing her and Brenda for what happened. She assumes that, like always, I'll come back. That no matter what, I'll still be the dad she can rely on. She still expects my calls, my check-ins, and most of all, my financial support. In her head, nothing has really changed. Maybe she even tells herself that once I get over it, things will go back to normal. But normal doesn't exist anymore. Weeks pass. Then months. And I don't call. I don't check in. I don't send a single dime. At first, she probably thinks I'm just proving a point, trying to make her feel guilty. But then reality starts sinking in. The bills don't stop coming. Tuition payments are still due. The little luxuries she never had to think about before, gone. And when she tries to reach me, nothing. The number she calls no longer works. The messages she leaves go unanswered. She shows up at my old place, only to find a stranger living there. That's when she realizes I'm really gone. Not just physically, but in every way that mattered. And for the first time in her life, she has to face something she never considered before. A world where dad isn't a safety net. A world where the man she dismissed so easily isn't there to clean up the mess. Mark wasn't her dad. He was just a man her mother used to love, someone who had chosen a different path in life before suddenly reappearing. Christine had assumed he would step into the role I left behind, but that's not how it works. A father isn't replaceable. There's no plug-and-play option when you throw one away. Desperation kicked in. She tried calling over and over. I saw the missed calls and the messages, but I didn't respond. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I had nothing left to give. A year passed before she finally found me. I don't know how she did it, but one day there she was. She apologized, said she hadn't considered my side of things. She admitted she was wrong to treat me the way she did, like I was just some obstacle in her mother's way. And I believed her. But belief isn't the same as forgetting. I didn't yell. Instead, I looked at her and told her the truth. Go be with your mother and her lover. I saw it in her face, the moment she finally understood that there was no space for her in that life. That nobody would ever love her the way I did. And that love, it had limits. Keeping in touch with Christine isn't the same as before. There was a time when she could call me for anything, money for school, advice about life, even just a vent about her mother. Back then, I would always pick up, always be there, with no hesitation. But now I hesitate. Now I think before I answer. I keep my guard up not because I want to, but because I have to. I don't fully trust her yet. That's the hard truth. I want to, but trust doesn't just snap back into place like nothing happened. When someone you love looks you in the eye and chooses someone else's happiness over yours, something inside you changes. She sided with her mother when I was at my lowest. And even though she's apologized, even though she wants to fix things, I can't just pretend like it never happened. Words don't erase wounds. Time doesn't either. Only actions do. So we keep in touch, but on my terms. No more unlimited access. No more dropping everything to be there for her, like before. When she calls, I answer if I feel like it. If I don't, I let it ring. If she texts, I don't rush to respond. I take my time. This is not about punishing her. It's about protecting myself. I refuse to be the man who gets walked over just because he loves too much. I still love her, of course. She's my daughter. But love has to go both ways, and if she wants to be in my life, she has to prove it. Losing my marriage hurt. I won't sit here and pretend it didn't. You don't spend 19 years with someone, build a life together, raise a child, and just walk away without feeling like a piece of yourself has been ripped out. It wasn't just about the love I had for Brenda. It was the years, the sacrifices, the quiet moments that made up our everyday life. All of that was wiped out with one confession, one choice. And as much as I wanted to tell myself I was fine, the truth was I wasn't. It hurt like hell. My daughter's betrayal? That cut deeper than anything. When Christine looked me in the eye and said I should just let her mother be happy, like I was some obstacle in the way, I realized something that broke me in a way I never expected. But as much as it hurt, I was free. Free from a wife who didn't want me. Free from a daughter who didn't respect me. Free from a home that had become nothing more than a reminder of what I lost. And let me tell you something. Freedom doesn't always feel good at first. It's lonely. It's terrifying. But it's better than begging to be kept where you're not wanted. So I did what I had to do. I rebuilt. Brick by brick, piece by piece, I started over. No, it wasn't easy. But every day that passed, the weight on my chest got a little lighter. And that brings me to the real reason I'm telling you all this. Maybe some of you watching are going through something similar. You're probably holding on to someone who has already let go of you. If that's the case, hear me now. If someone tells you they're meant to be with someone else, let them go. It doesn't matter how much history you have. It doesn't matter what you've been through together. The moment they say those words, they've already left. The only thing you can do is walk away with your dignity intact. And if your own child sides against you, I won't lie, that's a pain I wouldn't wish on anyone. But you can't force someone to see your worth, not even your own blood. If they see you as an obstacle, step back. Let them figure out for themselves what it means to lose you. Because one day they will. Pain fades. Self-respect lasts. I learned that the hard way, but I learned it all the same. And if you take nothing else from this, take this. Sometimes, walking away isn't losing. It's winning. Most times, it might hurt, but if you stay, it will definitely hurt. Tell me, what would you have done if you were in my shoes? Would you have walked away like I did, or would you have fought to keep a family that no longer wanted you? Because I won't lie to you. I asked myself that same question. Was I weak for leaving? Was I a coward for not fighting back? People love to talk about standing your ground, about not letting anyone take what's yours. But I wish to know what you would have done.